Hello and welcome to the Nycer Datorama app. In this short video, we will be covering what is the Nycer app and how does it work. The Nycer app is a conversational analytics tool. This probably doesn't mean anything to you, so we'll take a look at what this actually means. So Nycer and conversational analytics can use math and computer programming to interpret the questions you have about your data and automatically return an analysis and insights from the data in question. And all of this is done with nothing more than the question you have in the same way you would speak or think it. So now what does this all look like? Well, let's say you're a digital marketing manager who wants to know how much you spent last month on digital marketing. Or perhaps you're a social media marketer that's wondering what are your top posts by engagements last year. Or perhaps you're a digital analyst looking for insights into a specific advertisement. Will you bring these questions and nothing more to the Nycer app? And Nycer will not only return the answer to your questions, but also contextual signals that give you confidence in bringing these insights wherever you may need them, all automatically and in seconds, with no work required from you. So now that we know a little bit more about what the Nycer app is, we'll take a look at how this app actually works. And there are two key components of this app, those being installation and run mode. The first step is installation. And installation is as simple as selecting the dimensions and the measurements that you want to include in your app instance. But before you do this, you want to define the use case for the app. You want to understand who will be using this app and what will they be interested in, so that you can ensure that you select all of the dimensions and the measurements that they're interested in. So for example, we'll run through a quick installation process for a digital marketing manager who may want easy access to high-level numbers, but also will want to get more granular with the insights to understand interesting finds. So we'll kick things off by selecting all of the dimensions that we know this user cares about and wants to learn more. So those being campaign name, subtactic channel, business subdivision, and creative format. And in this hypothetical situation, we know that they are worried about impressions, engagement rate, website clicks, and shares. So now that we've selected all of the dimensions and measurements, we can filter the data to ensure that the data that's available in run mode will be clean and will provide accurate results for the users. So we'll clean up based on the campaign names, make sure they are not empty. Maybe we know there are some test campaigns, so we'll want to filter those out. And lastly, we'll clean up the creative format, knowing that there may be some null or invalid values in there to make sure everything is looking good in run mode. And now that we have our filters selected, we can save those and go ahead and install the app, and we are done with the installation step. And now that our app is installed, we can take a look at some automatic insights. So we'll start by looking at some of the high-level metrics that we know are of interest to this digital marketing manager. So starting with impressions and website clicks last month. Again, with this question and the click of a button, here we'll generate our reports and get our insights and information. So we can see the total number of impressions and website clicks, as well as the comparison to previous time periods, trends over time. You can also see the periods that we're comparing to in the top right corner, as well as some additional information on these two metrics given the time period. Now let's say we want to get a little bit more granular in our insight. We can actually take a metric and break it down by any one of the dimensions. So here being subtactic channel over a given period of time. To start to get a little bit more granular level of information, we can start to make optimization based on and learn from. So here we can see the engagement rate for other is extremely high and probably needs to be looked at, as well as you can see the trends over time comparing different time periods given the time period specified in the question. So now let's say we want to rank our creative formats by engagement rate, knowing that engagement rate is a KPI, and maybe we want to find some areas that we could potentially cut back spend on and improve overall. So we'll look at creative formats, ranking them by the worst engagement rate. And now here are our insights. And maybe here we see something interesting with the tracking creative format, maybe seeing it's down 26%, comparing last month to the previous period. So we want to look in a little bit more. So let's see what the impressions were for this specific creative format by simply asking what were impressions for tracking last month. And with this question, now we'll get the impressions over last month filtered for the specific creative format that's of interest to us. So here we can see that impressions are up 77% compared to the previous period. So this is probably something we want to look at given the extremely low engagement rate. Now let's say we have the hunch that website clicks and engagement rates are correlated. And we think that, and we feel that if it's true, we could potentially use that to optimize our website clicks, given that these two are very important metrics to different channels. So we can ask that question to validate to see if this is true and maybe something we can act on. And it turns out it very well could be, given the strong linear correlation that we found. Now, lastly, let's say we just want to get a kind of more robust view of performance for a specific dimension. Well, we can break down a dimension here being business subdivision for a specific period of time. Let's do year to date. And now for each of the business subdivisions, we will see all of the different metrics that we have specified in this app instance, giving us a more robust view into the performance of all of our different business subdivisions. And that is run mode.